Hello, everybody, and welcome back for another episode of Resilience Talk. This is Brad Neufeld. I am your host today. This is the show where you will discover that every challenge that you face in life is conquerable, especially when we work together. So anyway, I'm going to have a show completely on that so people understand what I mean by that. So that's coming. But anyway, we have a wonderful guest today. We have Yvonne Rodgers here with us. She is a survivor of domestic violence and here to tell her story as well as some of the things she's doing out there in the world to make this world a better place. We do want to really quick give a shout out to our sponsor, Matter Behavioral Health. I'll talk to you a little bit about them at the end of this segment here. But if you have anybody who's struggling with addiction or mental health issue and you've been to several places and nothing's worked, definitely give them a call. It's Matter Behavioral Health, MATR Behavioral Health. But their phone number is area code 435-462-2781. That's 435-462-2781. Well, let's get into it. Yvonne, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on your show.
Yeah, thank you for coming on the show. This is wonderful. I met you a little while ago, and I heard your story, and it just inspired me. You are the very definition of resilience. What you've had to go through to get here, and the fact that you're here telling your story, and I'm not going to lie, when I heard that interview, I felt your strength, and I was like, holy cow, this woman's got fire in her.
I do have fire.
All right. So tell us a little bit about give us just as much as you want to share. What led up to everything happening on the negative side here with the domestic abuse?
He was an alcoholic, and I don't want to label him, but he does have the traits of a narcissist. I was very much in love with him. We got along great, kind of yin and yang. I thought a great relationship, and then it just deteriorated. The name calling, that really got bad, and then the physical started. And then the night this happened, we weren't really fighting, and I was deciding that I wanted to leave. And he decided to push me across the room. And I went flying, and I fell and broke my arm, and it was an obvious fracture. And I'm laying there, and he did not believe me that my arm was broken. And I'm cradling it. And I had a Rottweiler, and she's laying there right next to me. And I'm screaming, and he's like, oh, your arm's not broken, but I'm going to give you something that'll make you cry. And he went upstairs, and he came down, and I heard the ratcheting of a shotgun.
Oh, man.
And he pointed it at me. And it took me a while later, not that night, to realize that he was going to probably kill me. And then he sat down next to me with the gun, and he actually put the gun underneath his chin and said it would just take one pull of the trigger and he could blow his head off. And
he did all this in front of you, obviously.
Yes, right next to me. And then I told him that I really didn't care, because I didn't at that point in time.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how I had my phone next to me. There's parts I don't remember after reading through the transcripts of the 911 call. I tried calling my son. He didn't answer, so then I called my father and told him I needed him, and then I called 911. And I remember he got up and was sitting on a bar stool, and he said, well, if we weren't getting divorced before, we're getting divorced now. And I said, yeah, no kidding. What did you think was going to happen when I had to go to the hospital? Because they would have asked.
Of course. Well, they should.
I just remember he would never take responsibility for anything that would happen. He would always blame me if something got lost. If he couldn't find anything, if we got in a fight, it was always my fault. I would ruin his day. And so he would call me fat all the time. I mean, I'm a size 4 to 6.
I was going to say.
So I remember I'm well educated, had a great job working on the nuclear weapons system, and I just started losing my self-esteem.
Do you find that happens with most domestic violence survivors? Yeah.
And I really cared about what he thought, and I was confused because why would a man that supposedly loves me treat me like this? And I remember after one fight, he was just really horrible, the words that came out of his mouth. And I said, why would you say the things to me that you do? And he says, because I know they hurt you. And that's when I remember it was almost like I put my feelings in a box and locked them away. Mm-hmm. And after that, the things that he said to me didn't hurt me. It was like I was just a shell of a person. And so I just put myself into really accelerating at my job, and I did my job very well, and I worked and I worked and I worked, and I moved up in my career. And when I come home, I didn't know if I was going to come home to Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of scary because one minute we'd be talking, we'd be fine, and then the next he would hate my guts, and he would tell me that. And so it was really, really hard because I was walking on pins and needles.
And you didn't know ever, each day was different.
Yes. Yeah. And I would never know what would set him off. I'd make a nice dinner. He would come in and be upset, and he would throw it in the garbage or dump it down the sink and always blame me. And so I thought, well, maybe if I tried being a better wife, maybe if I tried doing this. And I realize now that I could have been perfect, and it was not my problem. It was his problem. Right. I asked to go to counseling. At first, he told me yes, and then he changed his mind.
Yeah.
And I never, he would dump beer on me.
Oh my gosh.
And I told him that was abuse, and then he said, no, it's not. And then a couple weeks later, one of his friends was in jail for dumping beer on his wife because it was abuse.
Jeez.
And he, it started slowly. It's like the frog in the hot water scenario, where it just starts slowly, because if he had done these things when we first started
that's what I was
dating.
going to ask. So how long was your marriage then?
We were together about 7 years, but I had known him my whole life. We went to school together.
Okay.
And he never did anything in front of anybody. It was always behind closed doors. And he treated me, this is the hard part. He treated me so good when we were in front of everybody. He was my best friend.
Yeah.
And so when that started, it was so hard for me.
Yeah.
And I remember being suicidal because it made me feel so awful about myself. Mm-hmm. And then this happened, and thankfully this happened. Mm-hmm. Because I don't know if I would have really gotten out of the relationship all the way.
Because when did you start noticing the signs, and what were some of the signs, so that other listeners to this, maybe they can...
He started just shoving me at first.
Okay, so he'd just come in angry at something out in the world, or it wasn't necessarily anything you did.
Right. And he would call me very vile names. He would call me the C word, and I had never been called that before. And I remember the first time he called me that, I slapped him across the face. Mm-hmm. And then he called me that again, and I went to slap him, and he goes, if you slap me, I'll slap you back. And he slapped me across the face one time so hard that it ruptured my eardrum, and I had a bruise on my face. And the next day he goes, you got dirt on your face. And I said, no, it's from you hitting me. Oh, well, you must have done something to deserve it. But I never told anybody what was going on. Mm-hmm. And I just kept it to myself. And so I just kept sinking lower and lower and lower. And the day this happened, I was walking my dog, and I actually had a premonition of me laying on the floor bloody. Mm-hmm. And then this happened that night. So I called 911, told him he had the gun. So I was expecting the paramedics and everybody to come in. Well, they didn't, and I don't remember telling the 911 operator that I wouldn't leave, and that's in the transcripts. I don't remember any of that, and so my dad helped me out. And I just remember I saw all the police officers out there with guns and everything, and I was so worried about them not shooting my dog.
Right.
But I still at that point, I was up to the emergency room. My arm was broken. I had to wait 2 weeks to have surgery. I had to have 9 screws and a plate put in. Mm-hmm. So I come back home the next day, and the police officer came to get my statement. I was still conflicted of what do I do, because I loved him, but I didn't tell him I was in fear about the gun, because I didn't want him to lose his job.
Right.
I was still more worried about him than me.
Right.
And the police officer, if it hadn't been for him, I would have probably maybe tried to work it out with him. Mm-hmm. But he told me, he said, you don't just call the first time and this happens. He said, things have happened and happened and happened. And I said, yes. Yeah. And he told me, if you take him back, the next time we come, you will probably be dead. Yeah. And wow, so I listened to that, and it rang as true to me. And so I had my sister go to the courthouse the next day, because this happened Saturday night. The officer came Sunday. He was being arraigned on Monday, and my sister went to the courthouse, and they put a temporary protective order because of the criminal charges, and he was being a smartass with the judge. Mm-hmm. And so that's when I decided to go file my own protective order against him.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, well, that had to have been one of the hardest things the hardest decisions
it was
you'd ever made. Yeah,
it was, and he was very, very angry. He had the people that he was staying with call and ask why I had done that. Mm-hmm. He's never once asked how my arm was. He's never asked how I was. Yeah. He wanted money from me to pay his friend for the bail money. He wanted money for a lawyer. Yeah. And we had separate bank accounts. Mm-hmm. And everything's been my fault. He's never taken responsibility for it. I lost a lot of friends over it. I was ostracized by them.
Why is that?
Because I made him do it.
Oh.
And so they believed him. So that's probably been the hardest part. Yeah. But looking back, the truth has come out. Yes. Because I didn't go around telling everybody what happened. Right. He did.
Yeah.
I didn't need to tell my story then. Mm-hmm. He pled guilty. Mm-hmm. I was upset that he was not charged as a felony because he had a previous domestic violence conviction. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't look at it, and I just felt like I wasn't listened by the prosecutor. Yeah. And I felt like I was bullied through the system, and so I had to stand up for myself. The system does not protect the victim; it protects the criminal.
And I know we're going to talk a lot about that in the second segment here. That being said, I don't know if you can describe your emotions and your feelings in more clarity. That had to have been just infuriating, feeling like you're in a crowded room with no one listening to you. I mean, how can you describe that in a little more detail?
I was very, very angry because it was around the time
because your friends are doubting you. Here's this prosecutor. He's like, whatever.
That Jessica McClure, I believe her name was killed on the campus at the university.
I remember that.
And that's the time that all of this was happening. Mm-hmm. And my brother was telling the prosecutor, no wonder stuff like this happens, because she said it was her decision to make the charges. And she didn't even look up and find that he had a previous domestic violence conviction. Yeah. So she didn't even look at it. Mm-hmm. She said she bullied me. She's like, well, do you want to testify? I said, yeah. And I held my arm up and I said, how's he going to defend himself? Right. I have 9 screws in a plate. Mm-hmm. My arm's permanently disabled from what he did. It will never bend. I will never be able to use it again. Yeah. I have a permanent disability. Oh, geez. How's he going to defend himself to laying his hand on me? He outweighs me by 100 pounds. Mm-hmm. You know, he stated that he has PTSD, which I found out later. He does not even qualify for being PTSD in the military. Yeah. I have PTSD. I've been diagnosed with PTSD. He's violated the protective order 4 times before he was convicted, and she only charged him with 1 violation.
Right.
Which she acted like my feelings didn't even matter.
Oh, jeez.
And then I had a friend that she had gone through this, and she told me about a criminal protective order, not the prosecutor's office.
Okay.
So thank heavens, and a criminal protective order lasts a lifetime. So I asked for that. And I got awarded a criminal protective order.
Nice.
So that is one flaw in the system, that every victim of domestic violence should be offered to have a criminal, because the only time it can get put on is at the time of sentencing when they're convicted of domestic violence. That's the only time it can be put on.
But you can't do it before.
No. And it has to be asked by the prosecutor to be put on.
Okay.
Otherwise, it cannot be put on. So that's something.
Yeah. So after you made the decision to do this, that took a lot of courage. Now, after that, and you're realizing, hey, nobody's believing me, then what? I mean, then what was going on in your mind after that?
I was constantly living in fear because he was not leaving me alone. He was texting to third party. He was having people stalk me.
Yeah.
He was having his girlfriend stalk me. I had to have my lawyer send a cease and desist letter. We worked at the same place. He ended up not having his job anymore. I'm not sure what the circumstances were there. But I heard through the grapevine that I was the cause of that.
Oh, jeez.
But again, it would be his actions, not mine.
Right.
And when he broke the protective order the first time, he tried getting a stalking injunction put on me. And it was denied before it even, it was just totally shut down.
Yeah.
So, he only got sentenced to 45 days in jail, work release, and was released early for good behavior, so actually served 30 days with work release.
Yeah.
And the night he got out of jail, he sent a text to my son stating that he had 15 guns that were in a safe and 2 guns that we had out in a trailer. He is not allowed to have guns. He is a restricted person, can never have guns. Told my son that if I did not return the guns, especially the 2 that were in the trailer, he would call the police the next day on me and have me charged with a felony.
And this is after he had been convicted?
After he had been convicted. He got out on May 18th out of jail.
And called and threatened you if you don't bring him back.
He's texted my son.
Your son, right.
Third party, and he had been stalking me because he said he knew where I'd stored my stuff. And told my son that if I didn't return those guns to him, which would have been me violating by giving a restricted person guns, that he would call the police on me. And he followed through with that threat, and I got a call from the police the next day.
Okay.
And he told them that the little box on his civil protective order was unchecked and that he could have guns. Doesn't matter if that box is checked or not. He is a restricted person.
Because that's the law.
That's the state law. And that's where it gets sticky, because I found out the police, if the box is not checked on a protective order, they will not enforce them not having guns, but they won't refer to the state law that he's a restricted person and can't have guns.
Oh my gosh. I'm just imagining your roller coaster ride you're going on with your emotions and your thoughts, and like I say, you're scared. You probably felt all alone. Again, who do you turn to?
Yes, and so I didn't know what to do, so I started, and my attorney that I have was a very, very nice man. Very nice. He just did not understand domestic violence. So he kept still threatening. He wanted his guns. He wanted his guns because he had texted my son before he got out of jail that he couldn't go into the home with the guns. So we had removed all 17 firearms that he had. 17 firearms that he had from the home, and I had him in safe custody. He kept threatening that if they didn't get returned, that he would take me to court. And I'm in fear for my life from this man. And then I knew he had ammunition in the safe at the house that he went into, and I knew he had 3 big, large Bowie knives that he could not have. Well, it stated in our divorce decree that, he had stated that if I didn't sign the divorce decree and petition to have the protective order box checked on the guns, then if that got approved, then I'd give him the code to the safe. Well, the judge did not approve the box being unchecked because of his history of violating the protective orders. So then he took me to court for contempt of court and tried to get his guns back. The commissioner held me in contempt of court and awarded him his 17 firearms. Here I so believed, because of all the laws, there's federal laws, there's the Lautenberg Amendment, there's the state law, there's the Brady law that says he cannot have firearms. The commissioner gave him his guns back. And at first she ordered me, because I had turned them into the sheriff's department at this time because he had so threatened me. And I was so afraid. I mean, my PTSD, my anxiety was so bad. I wasn't sleeping. And I was shocked. And when the commissioner ordered me to go get them from the sheriff's department, I had a panic attack right there.
I bet you did.
And I heard that he actually wrote in a deposition to the court that I actually disobeyed her order, and that's why she ordered his attorney. He couldn't even see that it was a panic attack and fear, because all I was picturing was me having the guns in my garage and him coming in and taking them and trying to kill me.
Absolutely.
That was my reaction. So he couldn't even read what
concern.
my reaction was.
Right.
And all I see him go was, yes, yes. And
like I won.
Yes.
See, I told you I won.
Yes, yes. And that was his reaction, and I was shocked. I mean, and the commissioner, I think she saw me having the panic attack, and I told my attorney, I said, I will not go get them. I will not.
Yeah.
And so she ordered his attorney to get them, and they were all locked in boxes and taped and wrapped. And so his attorney went and got them, and then she held me in contempt and ordered me to pay $1,000 towards his attorney fees. I mean, me a victim of him.
Yeah.
And so then I had a friend, she was an attorney general for the state of Utah. I called her and I said, what do I do? She said, that's an illegal motion. She cannot do that.
Right.
So she got me, first she said, you need to get a new attorney. And I had 14 days to respond so that it could go up to a judge, because she was a commissioner. And I could not get one lawyer for legal aid to respond to me or help me. So I went to the law library and wrote my own motion.
Okay. Oh my gosh, Yvonne.
And I filed it myself.
Yeah.
And the commissioner actually tried listening to her own objection.
Yeah.
So I called the lawyer I had and I said, she's trying to listen to her own objection. He goes, oh, I'm sure you're wrong. I said, I'm pretty sure I'm not.
Right.
And this is when I got very versed in the laws for domestic violence and the gun laws and everything to do with domestic violence. And he looked at it and he goes, you're absolutely right. He goes, bring in what you wrote. And he looked at it and he goes, where did you get all this information? Because I haven't found the handbook that shows what the commissioners and the judges are supposed to follow. It was like 2 inches thick.
Wow.
And I said, the law library, which, my lawyer should have understood this. But like I said, he just did not understand how corrupt he was.
Yeah.
And so he rewrote it a little bit, but used most of what I had, and then filed it. And then, oh my goodness, all of a sudden it was going to go to the judge. So then we had a conference call with the commissioner and his lawyer. And he said, oh, all of the guns look exactly like they did when they got turned in. I said, well, how does he know that?
Right.
Unless they weren't opened. So then I called, and I was going to a therapist, and she said, my son's an attorney. Mm-hmm. I got a new attorney, who's the attorney I have now. Mm-hmm. And he looked at the order that was my divorce decree, and it actually was an illegal order because it would have made me give him the guns, which was making me...
It was illegal, because, like you say, there was 3 laws or whatever it was you said.
Yes, and so he stepped in.
Yeah.
And then in the meantime, the Attorney General got me in touch with the U.S. Attorney, who got me in touch with the ATF, and the ATF stepped in and said he could not have the guns.
Oh, man.
And whatever the ATF did, when me and my new attorney went to court, my being held in contempt went away. I didn't have to pay his attorney fees. Mm-hmm. And he didn't get possession of his guns, but it was only under the condition that his son, who lived in Washington at the time, took possession of them.
Okay. Wow. We got to get into this a little bit more on this legal side here, because something's got to be done about this. I'm sure you're not the only one. Well, I know you're not, but and so that's just it. We got to figure out ways to protect women from here on. Anyway.
Because the order should have never even been heard.
Exactly.
It should never even been heard.
Right.
And when we had the conference call then because then they wanted to talk about the ammunition in the safe and the guns in the safe, and they're like, you have to give him the combination. I said, absolutely not, unless we do a modification. It stated down they had to give him the combination to the safe if the protective order was modified, and it was not modified.
Right.
And the commissioner said, well, I can hold you in contempt. And I said, I'd like you to try.
Yeah.
I stood up, and his attorney's like, where's your attorney? And my attorney said, I'm right here. I think she's doing a pretty good job herself. And I absolutely refused to budge on that. And so
go, girl.
Because then is what made me change was when that commissioner, when I believed that the law would protect me, did not protect me. Mm-hmm. Something snapped in me.
Oh, I bet it did.
And even though I'm still afraid to him to this day, it's like, you are not going to bully me anymore. Mm-hmm. You may kill me, but I'm going to go down fighting.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about that fight here. So Yvonne Rodgers is our guest today, and we're going to come right back. My blood's boiling right now. Anyway, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today into our interview here with Miss Yvonne Rodgers, and we'll get right back to that in just a moment. Just want to take a pause here and tell you a little bit about Matter Behavioral Health. If you have anyone in your family, or you know of a friend or any other loved one who's struggling with addiction or with any other mental health challenge, I strongly encourage you to give Matter Behavioral Health a call. They have a system that they have set up that really gets to the core of what the issue is, so that you can get rid of it out of your life once and for all. It's just an awesome program. They have developed a process that they call the holographic human transformation process, and it is second to none. And I'd like you to find out more about it. You can find out more on their website at matterbehavioralhealth.com. That's MATR behavioralhealth.com, matterbehavioralhealth.com, or you can give them a call at area code 435-462-2781. That's 435-462-2781. And it doesn't matter where you are in the world. give them a call, and they can help you out in any way that they possibly can. Their main facility is located at 265 State Street in Mount Pleasant, Utah, but they also have some outpatient programs here in the Salt Lake City area as well as in the Orem area. So give them a call one more time, 435-462-2781. And we'll be right back after these commercial breaks and get right back to our interview with Miss Yvonne Rodgers.
Welcome to the Resilience Talk Network. My name is Jay Walter, and I'm the host of Rebuilding, heard every weekday night from 6 to 7 p.m. You can listen in and learn how to face your fears, overcome obstacles, and make dreams a reality. So listen every weekday night from 6 to 7 p.m. right here on the Resilience Talk Network.
All right, and welcome back to Resilience Talk with Brad Neufeld. Our guest today, Yvonne Rodgers, and we're talking specifically about domestic abuse and domestic abuse survivors and what you can do if you find yourself in a similar situation. Because again, most of you know who I am from my talks. I'm the anti-bully. I cannot stand to see. My belief is if you are somebody that's in a position of power or a position of influence, that you have an obligation to protect those who can't protect themselves. And I'll never back down off of that platform there. So anyway, and talking to Yvonne today, she shared her story with us. So if you're just coming on to the broadcast, be sure and go back and listen to her story here. But now we're going to get into the legal side here. Yes. And because again, as we talked during the break, Yvonne, I know there's hundreds, thousands, millions, I don't know how many, who are going through this very thing, and they don't know what to do.
Yes.
And nothing could be more frustrating to me than to finally get up the courage to say, I've had enough, and then go to the system and have this kind of stuff happen that you're describing here.
Yes.
That's just infuriating to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the only advocate I had was the one that worked with the prosecutor. So I really didn't have anybody that helped me. I mean, when you call the 1-800 numbers, they want to put you in a shelter. Well, I was living in my own home that I had bought, and I don't want to go live in a shelter. For me, I can understand a shelter where if somebody isn't in jail and the abuser could maybe get to them and kill them, but that's just
and they're like on the run. And
yeah, but that's only a temporary solution. That does not solve domestic violence. It's a Band-Aid fix for domestic violence. Mm-hmm. If I hadn't had the funds, my abuser would not, he would have his guns back in his possession. So I refused to give the code to the safe that was in his home because it had bullets in it, which there is no black or white.
No.
He had constructive possession, which is against the law. And I argued with the commissioner on that. I said, he has constructive possession of ammunition. I said, can you please tell me where you have the right to tell me that I have to give him that? I said, first of all, to give him the code, that would take a modification of my divorce decree.
Right.
I said, we're not here for a modification.
Correct.
And his lawyer's like, Your Honor, why is she speaking and not his lawyer? Mm-hmm. And he said, I think she's doing just fine. And then I said, there's also other weapons in there, and they are weapons that he cannot have. And I read her the law and said exactly the Bowie knives fit the term weapons that he can. And I said, he refuses to let the sheriff's department go in and take them out. So I had my new lawyer, after we had finished all this, and went to court with the ATF and set up a time where my lawyer, I had to provide evidence, and I had taken pictures of what was in the safe. And they're like, well, why did you take that? And I said, because I wasn't allowed to take that. It wasn't my responsibility to take that out. So my new lawyer went in and recorded everything and took it out and gave it to his son. And so then I thought everything was done.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no.
No.
No. I started a new relationship, and the gentleman I was in bought me a very nice car, a Bentley, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
Well, that bothered him,
well.
so he had to make a comment to my boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, third-party contact, which is a violation, the police didn't take that serious enough. Then he broke into my Amazon Prime account, was streaming music. Apparently, that doesn't qualify as breaking the protective order. Then he had bow and arrows for sale, which happened to be mine,
Right.
for sale on KSL. Apparently, that's not enough because it didn't specify what other weapons were on my protective order.
Yeah.
So the prosecutor's office refused to prosecute him.
Mm.
And every time I would go to, he was in private probation, every time I would go to his probation officer, she would tell him.
Mm-hmm.
So then he tried getting a stalking injunction based on that information.
Mm-hmm.
So he tried getting a stalking injunction based on that, and he was shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And then the gentleman that I was with, his ex-wife, broke into the house and attacked me, and I made a comment about protecting myself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was a police report about that, and he got a copy of that police report from her, so third party, not through a grandma request, and he tried getting a stalking injunction on me with that. And nobody would do anything, which it's a direct violation of a protective order. So he tried getting 3 stalking injunctions, tried doing 2 court actions against me, and nobody would take it seriously.
Yeah.
So then he tried then in January a year ago, tried to get the civil protective order dismissed.
Right.
And that took all year.
Oh, jeez.
And it cost me $10,000 to fight that.
To fight it.
And it got denied.
Mm-hmm.
And found that he had actually broke the protective orders
Mm-hmm.
with all the information we provided.
Yeah.
And he was making a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
and he was only ordered to pay $3,500 of my
Oh my gosh.
protective. And that's one of the laws I'm trying to get changed, so that if a protective order is upheld, it should be automatic that the abuser has to pay the attorney fees that it costs.
Absolutely. Oh, jeez.
And in there, he actually testified, because he was his own attorney, that he was the victim in all of this. That was his actual statement to the commissioner, that he was the victim in all of this, that it had ruined his life, and he was the one that has suffered for this.
Yeah, so what did you do? And the reason I'm asking that question, Yvonne, is because having been in the mental health industry for 30 plus years, I've dealt with some of these, the victims of these cases, and sometimes we were hired to actually be a mediator between the two to see if there was a possibility of fixing this, and it was hard to keep my emotions out of it. I'm not going to lie.
It made me even more fearful, because my lawyer works with these type of cases all the time. Said that it makes him even more deadly, because he truly believes what he is saying.
Yeah.
And that he is a pathological liar. And he responded to my lawyer's response by saying, well, that was a very theatrical presentation by Mr. Berube, Your Honor. Now would you like to hear the real truth?
I like that. Give that lawyer a big star.
So, it's just, his reality is his reality.
Yeah.
And nothing anybody says or does will ever change his mind.
Right.
And that's what's so scary and deadly about him.
Yeah.
And so then I realized I had helped a lady that she had a protective order on her ex, and the box was not checked for weapons. Well, the law states that if you're under conviction of a protective order, that you cannot have weapons. Well, the police were showing up to her house, because he was wanting the weapons that he had, and he was living with his parents that had weapons in the house, and they were not in the safe. They were in a display case with glass.
Mm-hmm.
And I ran into her, didn't know her, just getting my toes done, and she was telling me about this, and I said, the law says he cannot have them.
Right.
So I called the U.S. attorney, and he said, well, it's a little glitch in the law.
Mm-hmm.
That
a glitch.
If that box isn't checked, they won't enforce it.
Okay, now specifically, where's this? This is strictly the state of Utah we're talking about, correct? Okay.
Correct.
So this box is on what form?
The protective order.
The protective
form.
order, okay.
So then I actually called a sergeant down at the post, and I said, can you explain to me when the state law says if you have a protective order on you, you cannot have a weapon.
Okay.
But if that box isn't checked, law enforcement won't enforce it. And he says, because we will not go against a judge's order.
Which, that's how it should be.
I said, but
still,
those two contradict each other.
Yes, they do, absolutely, because you've got the underlying law
So
there.
then I helped her, and we went and asked for a modification that he couldn't have weapons, and the judge checked that box so that he could not have weapons.
Okay.
So this is a contradiction in law on that form that needs to be changed. And I have gone to my legislator who tells me that it's a judicial action, not a legislative action, and will not help me get that box checked, or just where it is permanently checked.
Okay.
It's like a round robin.
Right.
The Attorney General says, yes, we need that box checked. It needs to be there. I go to the legislative section, that is the ones that have the bills passed to get it changed. She tells me, no, it's judicial. So I'm not getting help from the people that need to help me get that changed. That needs to be changed because you have a 40% increase in domestic violence if the abuser has possession of guns.
Absolutely. Well, again, duh.
And so that is a form that needs to be changed immediately. So then I realized after talking with her, that was what my ex was trying to do. So then I went and filed a motion on my criminal protective order because that box was not checked.
Right.
And filed to get that box checked, and to, instead of just have it say any other weapons, to have it refer to the state law as to what any and all other weapons are. And my motion was granted.
Yeah, good.
And he was not very happy about it.
Not.
He was pretty much a jerk about it, and
in the courtroom, or
yes,
okay,
we were on web cam, and he was very disrespectful. The judge stated that this was just a waste of time.
Oh gosh.
That he didn't even know why we were here, that order was going to be thrown away in 3 years. Well, my civil protective order is good for 10 years. And the judge informed him that the order, and he read a code, and I believe it pertained to the civil protective order, and the judge informed him that the code he was referring to in the order, he said, I didn't order that one, that this was a criminal protective order, and that this was a lifetime protective order, that it will not be going away. And then he said, because he believed that the weapons at the time were going to be with his son out of state, and his son now lives here in Utah, that he was granting my motion, and then was going to put in there, please refer to the state laws to what any and all other weapons are. And then he, in a very disrespectful tone, said, so if I'm going to mow the lawn, does that make my lawnmower a deadly weapon? And can you please explain to me what deadly weapons are? And the judge said, please, you can look up the law.
Yep. Oh, gosh.
And that was the end of that. And so I got what I asked for. But I have had to...
Look at all you had to go
I have
through.
had to spend probably close to $40,000 defending myself to this man.
And most women don't have that.
No. And so I've helped quite a few women get what they want, because I've had another one that she was told she could not do a victim impact statement. And so I've had to call and say, you have. And then when he came up for early probation, I was told by the prosecutor's office that I was not allowed to speak. And so I called down to the Attorney General's office, and they said, oh, you're allowed any time that he comes up in the criminal case. I am. So I called them back and said, you probably must be uninformed, because according to the Attorney General's office, I am. And so I wrote a letter, and so it's not called ex parte. I had to serve him. And his girlfriend threw a fit and said I was contacting him, which I don't think they understand, that the protective order is on him, not on me.
You, right.
That I could drive by his house, I could contact him, I could do whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not in violation, but
Right.
I would never do that. But that I
Correct.
had to serve that on him,
Right.
so that he knew what I was saying to the judge.
Yeah.
That it's called, so it's not called ex parte communication, because then the judge cannot look at it.
Well, obviously it was frustrating, but I'm wondering what can be done about this lack of communication between the different between. It just sounds like not everybody's on the same page.
No, I've actually contacted Sean Reyes. I've talked to Rick Cantrell, and I've spoke to legislator Jerry Stevenson. I've asked for a task force that oversees and holds accountable the prosecutors. And Jerry Stevenson thought it was a great idea, but then I don't get any more response back. I want a task force that holds accountability to the prosecutor's office. That when they prosecute, when they plea bargain, when they drop charges, that they are held accountable for their actions.
Okay.
I filed a complaint with the victims of crime, and it's been looked into. My attorney has tried to set up a meeting with the elected official for Weber County Prosecutor's Office. He did not follow through with the meeting with my attorney. So I still don't know the outcome, because the gentleman that I've been working with told me I could enforce my own civil protective order. Why do I have to enforce my own protective order? I cannot put him in jail.
Correct.
I cannot press charges on him.
And you cannot do anything.
But I have a criminal protective order. It is not my job as a victim to uphold the law. It is the judicial system's
Correct. Absolutely.
job to uphold the law.
And that's where we're finding the breakdown and all over in cities
And I want
across
accountability,
America.
and I want the elected official, Mr. Chris Allred, and I'm saying his name because he will not return one of my phone calls. He will not hold his office accountable for what they are doing, because I filed complaints to the state bar on 2 of his prosecutors, and because they are state employees, the bar cannot hold any accountability to them. If they were private attorneys, they would have lost their jobs because they refused evidence. They told me, well, how do we know that he put those on his KSL page? Well, it was his backyard. It was his phone number, and it's his name. And yet they will not prosecute him? I mean, give me a freaking break. And then his Amazon Prime account. The Alexa, the app said, welcome, Jeff. We downloaded it on to recognize your name. Who in the heck takes somebody else's phone and downloads an app? Does somebody download an app on your phone?
Nope.
Mine either. But that's what the officer said to me.
Jeez.
So I'm tired of hearing excuses. I know other women that I sat in groups with. One had her neck broken and she had to have it fused. He was not charged. I was in my doctor's office a month ago. Her son was pistol whipped and beaten and had to have shoulder surgery, and he was not charged. Needs to be a no tolerance for domestic violence, and I'm here to lead the cause. I'm here to hold have accountability held to the prosecutor's office, because that is where it's not being upheld. I know a lot of the police officers that are doing their job, and they feel it's a waste of time to give it to the prosecutors because they're not following through with their job.
Yeah, well said. Oh my gosh, Yvonne, we've got it. Yeah, I'm on board with you. I want to help you in this fight any way that we can here at the station, for sure. So let's take one more quick break. But when we come back, I want to talk about what obviously you're doing some things here. How can other people get involved and get on board with you here? So anyway, our guest today is Yvonne Rodgers. She's a survivor of domestic abuse and now a very well-spoken advocate for those of domestic abuse out there. Yes, you do have that fire in you, don't you? Anyway, but we're going to take one more quick break. We'll be right back.
Do you know someone who's gambling with death due to an addiction? Do you know someone whose life is being turned upside down due to a loved one that's battling with addiction? Hi, I'm Al Richards. I am the host of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. I started the podcast due to my wife's battle with alcohol. Let's just say I became addicted to her addiction. Our podcast is helping people understand a little more about those who have battled addiction and those who are hurting from their addiction. Through raw vulnerability, we share stories that help uncover the root causes of addiction. Shame felt on both sides, matter of the conscious and subconscious mind, continued beliefs, and often confusing paths of recovery. We collaborate with real people and their stories, as well as licensed professionals, to help our audience gain a better understanding of addiction. You can find us on Resilience Talk Network. You can also find us on Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. That's Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. You can also find us on YouTube. Just look up the Other Side of Addiction podcast.
Hello, my friends. This is Brad Neufeld. Thank you for tuning in to the Resilience Talk Network. You can listen to my show, Resilience, every morning, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. On my show, we will be discussing what it takes for you to overcome the day-to-day challenges that all of us seem to face in life, as well as some of those devastating ones that may lead us to feelings of either hopelessness or despair. It's my goal to provide you with the tools and skills that you need to overcome anything that is thrown your way. To find out more about the show, please visit our website at resiliencetalk.com. That's www.resiliencetalk.com. And as always, until we meet again, go for everything that you want in life and make it happen. All right, and welcome back to Resilience Talk with your host, Brad Neufeld. Man, what a show today. Yvonne Rodgers. Yvonne, you are awesome. And we're going to wrap this thing up here. Again, one more shout out to our platinum sponsor, Matter Behavioral Health. Give them a call if you're struggling with addiction, or if there's anybody in your family or friends that need help there. They are awesome. I will tell you a little bit more about them after the show. But anyway, their number is 435-462-2781. That's 435-462-2781. All right, let's jump right back into it here. Yvonne, I know you have a book coming out.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about that.
It starts off the night all this happened, and then it's just my journey through the legal system. Mm-hmm. And the journey of how you can see the signs of what's going on, and I did counseling for a year at Safe Harbor, and I don't know what I would have done without that counseling.
Yeah.
That really helped me a lot because, like I said, I had just shoved everything in a box.
Oh, I bet you did.
And not dealt with it.
Not dealt with, yeah.
And then it all came out and kind of crashed and burned.
Yeah.
And then not being able to work because I've always been a very independent, strong woman, and I had a car accident that I got rear-ended, and so it made, because I have CRPS from what he did, and then it moved all the way up to my shoulder, so it's made my whole arm disabled from it, and the cause is from the domestic violence. And so that was a very hard time in my life.
Yeah.
Because there's no cure for it.
No.
So I had a lot of very angry feelings at him.
I'm going to say rightfully so.
And then I actually feel sorry for him.
Yeah.
Because for him to be able to treat somebody and other women like he does, it's his problem. It's not mine. Yeah. And it's not my burden to carry anymore. My mission now is to help women and men and to stop domestic violence.
Absolutely.
And to make the system better so that people don't have to maneuver it themselves. And I did classes, and one of them I was really angry because I was a statistic, and I don't see myself as a statistic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And you can do statistics to match anything you want, so it's kind of misleading. So we need to just find to where it doesn't continue, so the children don't see it and continue the cycle. We need to stop the cycle, and we need to make the laws no tolerant, like we do drugs. No tolerance, no tolerance, no tolerance, no tolerance.
Absolutely.
And we need to send the message.
110% agreed.
And that's my goal.
I have zero tolerance for abuse. Zero.
Yep.
Zero.
And the first time it happens, the women need to make them move out of the home.
Yeah.
And it needs to stop there and make people more aware of it and not keep it to ourselves.
Absolutely.
And so my book is called And With a Broken Wing.
And with a broken wing.
And with a broken wing.
And you're going to come back when you launch your book. Is that going to be pretty soon?
It should be within the next 4 to 5 months. My cover's getting drawn right now by one of my best friends, and I'm working with a ghostwriter, and it's almost finished, and then it will go to editing, and it's going to be awesome.
Well, will you come back on and when
I
you get the book?
absolutely will.
All right, thank you. And we'll. I like launching books.
Yes.
Those are one of my favorite interviews to have. So
yes.
So Yvonne, thank you so much. How can people get a hold of you?
They can right now.
Because you're gaining steam with this cause here. So I just want everybody to know this is the beginning of something special here.
Yes.
I want everybody to know that, and I'm so happy to have met Yvonne and Lori also, that's working our cameras today. Hi, Lori. But this fight needs to happen. Sooner than later.
And I'm here to help anyone that needs help. You can reach me through my email. It's Yvonne, YVONNE, and then R as in Roger, Z as in zebra, R as in Roger @gmail.com.
Okay, and we'll definitely get that down. That'll be in the show notes for sure, down here at the bottom. Anything else you can, any words of advice you can give to the women out there who are on the fence there? Because I know that struggle is real.
Believe in yourself. Love yourself more than your partner, because your needs come first. You cannot fulfill or help anyone else unless your cup is full. And your children, you need to keep them safe also. Yeah. So you need to take care of you and your children, and I'm there to help anybody anytime that you need. Okay.
Fantastic. So stay tuned. We're not done with this by any means.
No, we're not.
And so, but thank you, Yvonne.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap this episode up. Again, our guest today has been Yvonne Rodgers, talking about domestic abuse and some of the horrors there. And again, there's a lot of things that need to be what's a good word, rearranged or fixed in our system here
Yes.
to protect people from this devastating event. And I know it can be done. I know there's the tools out there. I know there's a lot of good people who are on board with this as well, but they're just frustrated, just as you were, Yvonne. But the fact that you've been able to fight through this and be where you're at, my hat's off to you. So anyway, we're going to wrap up this show. Again, this has been Resilience Talk with Brad Neufeld. Until we meet again, wait a minute. Look up our website at resiliencetalknetwork.com. That's resiliencetalknetwork.com. Or you can email me, and if you want to be on the show, if you have a story to share, we'd love to hear from you. And you can email me at info@resiliencetalk.com. That's info@resiliencetalk.com. Or you can call me directly at area code 435-830-6945. Until we meet again, go for everything that you want in life and make it happen.